Welcome back. Well, we saw that Independent MP Rebecca Sharkey came out today publicly and said that she would support Peter Dutton if there's a hung parliament. In my view, the Teals need to be transparent, as they claim to be, and fess up publicly, tell voters who they plan to support if there's a hung parliament. Well, let's ask one true independent, the Independent MP for Fowler, Dai Lee. Dai, great to see you again. So let's get right to it. Who would you support in the event of a hung parliament?
First of all, I don't want to be presumptuous. I mean, I have to win the election first. And if I am privileged enough to win the election, of course, I'll sit down and negotiate with whoever got the most when they, at the election. We don't know which of the parties will have, the numbers in terms of more MPs. That's yet to be, the results still to come out on election day.
But that's how you decide it. Whoever has won the most seats, if there is a hung parliament, whoever's won the most seats, that's who you would sit down to negotiate with.
Yeah, that's right. So we have to wait to see the results. Don't know who's going to win in terms of most numbers, not win, but, have the numbers. Then we'll sit down and negotiate with whichever leader. And hopefully it'll be, for the benefit of the community in Fowler.
Voters do deserve to know the answer to this question, don't they, from all independents, who they would support if there is a hung parliament or a close outcome?
Yeah, look, I understand that's what the voters would like, but it's really hard to gauge and hard to predict, hard to see the crystal ball in terms of who will have the most seats at the election. And as we all know, this election is going to be quite interesting. It's going to be very complicated, and which is, I think, is a good. It doesn't look like anyone will have the majority, which sounds like that's the case. But that means that whoever have the most numbers of seats will know that they have to focus on the issue at hand, which is the cost of living issue. And that's what I'm going to be driving for. And like I said, I don't want to be presumptuous, Shari. It's really, it is my first term to get re-elected, and I need to focus on my community and making sure that I win this election. I don't take anything for granted.
And of course, Fowler, the seat you're in, only has a 1.4% margin, so it will be a battle to hold on to it. You've said the policies on cost of living could sway your decision. So how do you compare Labor's tax cuts that come in next July with the Coalition's petrol price reduction?
Well, I actually, when I first got elected in May 2022, that first 12 months, my questions to the government and to the Prime Minister, Albanese, and his Treasurer was around reintroducing the fuel excise tax cut, which I know that under the Coalition, they introduced it during the COVID era, which really was very helpful for those that were driving. And I kept on calling for that fuel excise tax cut. That would alleviate a lot of the costs for families, especially in Fowler and Southwest Sydney, because a lot of our community here, they drive petrol-fueled cars. Many of our families own an average 3 to 4 cars to drive, kids, grandparents, parents drive themselves to work. And so I think that's a very common sense approach. And also it will help pensioners who will not benefit from a tax cut, or people who are not working will not benefit from a tax cut. Students who don't have that income threshold, they'll benefit from a tax cut. So there are more people that will actually have the benefit of the fuel excise tax cut that was announced by the opposition leader, as opposed to the 1% tax cut by the government, which won't come into effect, as you mentioned, till after July, I think in 15 months' time.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dai Lee, really appreciate your time in the show and appreciate you being upfront and actually willing to have this conversation with voters. So thank you very much for that.